Hi everyone, it's Lou Collins. Welcome to the CraftStash YouTube channel. Now today I'm going to be working with Die Cutting Essentials magazine. This is issue 112. Now this has got some beautiful dies with it. It's got some printables as well, which I've printed off already. And of course, lots of inspiring projects in the magazine. So like I say, I'm going to be working with these dies, but also those free printables, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different with those. So I have printed off, first of all, the sentiments in black and white, are the ones I've chosen to use, and my patterned paper. I've only chosen to use one patterned paper, but I've actually printed this onto acetate. So we have a printable acetate available on CraftStash. I'll show you that in a moment, but look at the effect that you can get if I can just get this backing paper off when you print on printable acetate. Look at this, it's absolutely stunning. Now I've printed it onto A4, but you can of course make your image small and print it onto sort of two sheets onto A4, so you've got two A5 sheets instead. Now our sentiments are just printed onto normal copy paper. So this is the printable acetate, like I say, available on CraftStash. It's only like £3 something. You get 5 sheets in there, 5 A4 sheets, and it's really good quality. The ink is dry instantly as well, and this is perfect for a shaker card, which is what we're going to be doing today, because those panels are going to look beautiful with the shaker elements sort of sitting behind them. Now for my card base, I'm taking a 10 by 7 inch card base and cutting it into two. This gives me two 5 by 7 top fold cards, which is absolutely my favourite style of card to use. And by purchasing the pre-made card bases from CraftStash in this size, I'm getting twice as many card bases for my money, which I absolutely love. Now with my card base cut, I need to trim myself a frame for my shaker element to sit in. So I'm taking a piece of white cardstock. This is around about 300 GSM, so it's a really good strong cardstock, again from CraftStash. And I've just marked inside of the card base there, and I'm going to cut this out. Now once I've cut this out, I'm then going to trim myself a panel on the inside of it. So just using a pencil and a ruler, and I'm actually really utilising my self-healing mat underneath here as well. I'm marking 1 centimetre inside each of the edges. This is just lightly with a pencil, and I'm actually working on the back of my cardstock rather than the front, so I haven't got to think about removing those pencil lines afterwards. So like I say, using my self-healing mat to get those even squares or that even border all the way round. And then once I've done this, I take my trimmer and I trim the edges down, or those lines down, as best I can. But I do need a special type of trimmer to get into the corners. I use my Creative Craft Products trimmer because it has a line on the scoring or the cutting blade here, and I line this up with the horizontal line that it's going against, and I take it up again, lining it up with the top horizontal line there, and that gives me, I usually stop just before, just after that line, or rather start just after and stop just before that line, and that gives me a small gap in the corner. And then once I've gone round all 4 of my edges like this, I take a sharp craft knife and I just nip those corners, the tiniest little bits that are left, and this gives me really sharp, precise, neat corners, and I haven't got any mess in there. So just checking that this then fits nicely on my card base, which it does. I'm now going to be attaching my acetate sheet that I've already printed out, and just to say, this was printed out on your average sort of 40–50 pound home printer. The only thing special about it is the acetate is printable. Otherwise I haven't had to change my ink or anything like that. Now here I'm showing, or sorry, deciding what parts of the acetate I want to be showing through, and I think the yellow flowers, the 2 bundles of them, are going to be really pretty with my pink sequins that I'm going to have in the background. So just marking around the acetate, or around the frame onto the acetate with a pencil, and just taking my hand scissors, I've got some big ones here that cut nice straight lines. I'm going to cut just inside of those pencil lines, just to give me a slightly smaller, I mean I'm talking a millimetre or 2, smaller panel of acetate than my frame, and that way I know that even if I don't get my acetate perfectly straight stuck on the reverse of my frame, I'm not going to have any, or hopefully won't have any, kind of hanging over the edge and again looking messy. So just trim that down, keep aside this acetate for later. You can remove your backing now. You could have done that earlier, but I like to keep it on so I can clearly see what I'm doing. And this now needs to adhere onto the back of the frame, so make sure you turn it over and you're working on the back, which is the side that I had my pencil lines. And I'm just using a double-sided tape here, quite close together in the corners if I can. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's not like we're adding the shakers to this element, just enough to hold your acetate in place. And this is finger lift tape, so it's the tape that's got the gap from the tape to the backing. It makes it really super easy to peel off afterwards. I can just get my fingers under there really nicely, even though I've not even got sort of really long nails or anything, so I like this. So just peel them off and then very carefully place down my acetate, because I don't want this, like I say, to be overlapping any edges. So just be really careful, lower it down gently, make sure it's sort of right near the edges, but going down straight is most important. So there we go, perfectly neat and tidy. Look at that, it's absolutely stunning as a window, and that would be perfect on its own, but we are going to add the shaker element. So out comes the foam tape. This is now going on top of the acetate, and this time I really want to make sure that the corners are well sealed. So each piece of tape gets butt right up against the last piece, squish that right up against it, and making sure that there's no way any sequins will be able to escape through it. Now, a tip I've learned is to always put my sequins down before I remove the tape off the foam strips, because I have this problem. Once I remove tape, I have to glue it down to something immediately, and I often have forgotten to put my sequins in. So a bright pink sequin here that's going to look beautiful against or behind those flowers, putting plenty in there, but once you've put them onto your card base, keeping them kind of central so that the tape doesn't stick to them, flatten them out, make sure there's not too many clumped together anywhere, because once your acetate's on top, you're not going to be able to move these around very easily at all, certainly not separate any that are stuck together. And then we can remove the backing of the foam tape and place this down over the top. You sometimes find that there's a bit of static and the sequins jump up onto the acetate, but that should be fine as long as they're not catching on to that foam tape at all, which is why I keep them in the middle as much as possible. So sticking that down, and there we have our shaker. Now make sure everything moves where you want it to, so they all fall down to the bottom, nothing's sticking to the tape, nothing's clumped together too much. Beautiful. Okay, let's start with the topper now. So you could use your simple black and white strip sentiments here for a really simple card, really quite contemporary card, and shelf those sequins behind. But I think I'm going to go with a sentiment that fits with this die behind it. I like the smaller one. I might even use the larger one as a matte and layer if I feel I need it, but I'll cut out with the smaller one first, put it on my card, and then we'll see how it looks. So I think this Life in Bloom, just as the packaging shows there, I think this looks beautiful. So I am going to use this sentiment with this die. Now I'm going to cut this out of the copy paper, but I'm going to cut it out first, but then I'm going to actually kind of strengthen it by adhering it to some cardstock. So for this, I'm going to use the panel of cardstock that came out of the middle of my card when we cut out the frame. That's going to fit perfectly, I know it will. So I just need to adhere the paper, the printout, onto this card. And to do that, I'm going to use spray adhesive. This is a permanent spray adhesive. Please make sure your room is ventilated well if you're going to use this. But this is going to mean that there's absolutely no adhesive showing through my thin copy paper, printer paper, once it's adhered down and on my card. Now you do always need to give this around about 30 seconds to dry and go tacky before you place it down. So just pressing that now down onto my cardstock, making sure it's actually on the cardstock, rub that down, and there's absolutely no adhesive showing whatsoever. So a really nice professional finish, and I've got a strong sentiment to die cut now. So taking that die, I'm going to position this over the sentiment, keeping it central, tape it down and run it through my die cutting machine. This is such a pretty but unusual shape. I really love it. It's not quite a scallop circle or the same sort of frame shapes as I've got at home with my nesting dies. So yeah, it's a really nice unique one. I'll probably use this lots again. So I'm going to just place this on the middle of my card. Now usually I would go in with my inks and things. I would ink around the edges like my distress inks, for example. But I think I really like the look of this just being white on the patterns and the colours behind. So I think I'm just going to stick this down as it is without any inking. I think it pops absolutely beautifully. So to adhere this down, I'm going to use white foam squares. These are from Creative Craft Products, again, exclusive to CraftStash. I love their adhesives. They're really inexpensive and they have this backing paper that just comes away beautifully. They stick really well. They come in so many different sizes, thicknesses, depths. I just really love the foam pads. These big ones cover a large area at a time. So as you can see, just 4 squares there is perfect for this topper. So just placing that on. Now I'm actually deciding here I'm going to use my mat. I'm going to put this central to some of the lines on the grid. I'm just looking at it horizontally there. That's central, so then bring it down so that it's central to some of the other grids. And then I've got a center line, as you can see horizontally, and I can see it vertically, so I know exactly where to place my topper so it's in the middle. Usually I just do this by eye, but I kind of measured it this time, kind of. There we go. There's our finished shaker card. How beautiful does that look? All using the elements, the free downloads from Die Cutting Essentials 121. So just up here is the link for Die Cutting Essentials 121. You'll find that there. If you like tutorials like the shaker card, you can subscribe to our CraftStash channel where we do lots of tips, tricks, tutorials like this. And we think you're going to love this video down here too.